And allow your attention to drop into the body. Allowing your awareness to fill the space of the body. And just noticing what's here right now. You might have sensations of coolness, warmth, looseness, tightness. You might feel your heart beating. Just getting curious as to what's here. And then taking a few deeper than normal breaths. And on the out breath, as best you can, releasing any stress that might be here. On the out breath, releasing any knots of tension that might be here, letting them melt away. Letting the bones, the muscles soften on the out breath. Settling into a deeper and deeper sense of ease as best you can. And before we raise our gaze, perhaps offering yourself a sense of gratitude for taking this time to pause, to care for yourself, time to recharge your batteries, refresh. And then sensing into your posture, the space around you. And then when you're ready, raising your gaze, offering a smile of welcome to the people on the screen, the names on the screen. Yeah.
Wow, that was great. Thank you so much, Siri, for guiding us in a soft landing. You know, that's I was noticing during the soft landing when Siri was directing us to notice our breath and our body. I realized, oh, my breath is short. My heart is pounding. I was, Siri and I haven't led one of these mini retreats in more than a year. And even though we had so much fun doing it all the time in earlier in 2021 and 2022. So I noticed I'm so excited to to see the names and to see the faces from all over the world, and a little bit nervous. So that was nice to be able to make space for all of that. So we've invited you to come together with us to touch peace. And I'd like to take a few minutes to talk about why we wanted to call this touching peace, and what does that mean, and what are we going to do here for the next few minutes. Because it certainly feels to me like there's a lot going on, and a lot that feels pretty upsetting. It feels like we're living through a lot of conflict in the world. I mean, for those of us, Siri and I live here in Thailand. And in Thailand, there's been a lot of political unrest, and there's still a lot of political conflict and uncertainty. Right next door to Thailand in Myanmar, there is an active civil war, and most of the world isn't even thinking about it. I saw a letter that was sent out from a Dharma teacher, and there was a list, let's send out compassion for people in Ukraine and Palestine and Israel and Somalia and Yemen and Afghanistan, but Myanmar wasn't on that list. And of course, there's so many terrible things happening. And then, of course, there are all the places that we're hearing about all the time: Ukraine, Gaza and Palestine, and Israel. And this is, and it feels like there's so much anger and so much despair on top of all that suffering. When we think about what all those people, wherever they are, in Syria or in Ukraine or Yemen, what they're going through. So and we can get caught up in that and get worried and be filled with these feelings that are kind of flooding through society. And Siri and I were talking about a famous quote of the Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh, who was a peace worker for his entire life. There is no way to peace. Peace is the way. And of course, that's a little bit mystifying, as I guess one would expect a quote from a Zen master to be. What does that mean? Because why did we call this retreat Touching Peace? And in fact, of course, we also cribbed that from Thich Nhat Hanh. That's a title of one of his books, Being Peace, Peace is Every Step, Touching Peace. These are titles from his books. Because if we want to make a difference in the world, as practitioners, as people who are committed to practicing mindfulness, as people who are committed to practicing self-compassion and offering compassion to others, we want to start with touching peace ourselves. So I'd like to quote from Thich Nhat Hanh. Peace is, first of all, something you are, not exactly something you do. That's why I like to use the expression being peace and the way to be peace. Peace is there. If we allow it to be, then it will be. Because we don't allow peace to be, that's why peace is not there. Referring in this quote to ourselves. So peace is already part of you. And we don't have to look outside in order to wait for the world to be peaceful, to cultivate the peace within ourselves. If you like, you can think about it as a seed deep within your consciousness. And that when you water that seed, when you provide the ingredients it needs, the seed can blossom very quickly. So even if you pause right now, even for just a moment, in your seat, as you did during the soft landing, as you're listening to me right now, Take a moment to just breathe a few times, focusing on your breath. And if it feels right for you, allow the smallest possible smile to blossom on your lips, just for a moment. And just notice what happens in the energy of your body and mind when you do this. When you come home to this moment, to your body, and breathe and smile, you might notice that suddenly a little bit more peace is already there, because what you are doing is watering that seed of peace that is already part of you as a human being. And part of what's difficult is that the seed of anger is there, the seed of despair is there. There's many, many seeds. It's all there. And a lot of the things in our social media, a lot of the things you interact, they water all these seeds of anger and hopelessness and despair and compassion as well. So what, and again, I'm going to quote from Thich Nhat Hanh. When you practice mindful breathing and mindful walking, you allow peace to be. The negative energies are still in you, but they don't manifest themselves. If you continue, if your practice works out, then the negative energies will be transformed little by little in the depths of your consciousness. Our practice allows us to touch the peace within us and to develop that. And that's what we're going to do, because we don't want you to think about this retreat as, oh, I'm going to practice with Siri and Ben, and I'm going to feel peace, and then that peace is going to stay with me forever or for days and weeks. When we generate that energy, it stays with us, and it can have a lasting effect as well. But if we don't keep practicing, the energy will dissipate. That's why people go on retreats and then they feel disappointed. It's so amazing. They experience bliss and peace on the retreat. And then they go home and they keep consuming social media and they lose it. So we're going to also be encouraging you to think about, how are you going to use the practices Siri and I are going to guide you in today? How are you going to use them in the coming weeks in your daily life and all of these practices? And a very important one is self-compassion. Because sometimes when we do come back to the present moment and we're mindful, we feel our breath and we try to smile, what we meet is suffering. Maybe we're feeling suffering for the world. Maybe it's some of our own suffering, suffering of our work, of our family, or our old suffering from our past. And that's when self-compassion is incredibly useful. And we're going to give a very quick and easy way to use self-compassion. And again, I'm going to keep using the teachings of Thich Nhat Hanh. Thich Nhat Hanh prescribes 5 steps for what to do when we are practicing mindfulness and we encounter suffering. So number 1 is to just recognize it as quickly as we can. And your mindfulness will help you to do that. Your mindfulness will help you to recognize, oh, this is suffering. This is my anger. This is my despair. This is my loneliness. Whatever it is, that we can recognize it straight away. The second step that Thich Nhat Hanh recommends is to become one with it. I love that phrase. It's not exactly a psychological phrase, to become one with it. I think that he means don't fight it. Don't try to push it away. Recognize it as part of yourself and say, yes, my anger is part of me. My loneliness is part of me. That seed has manifested. Welcome it like a guest. And then the third step is to calm and soothe that feeling. The same way that you would calm and soothe a crying baby or a good friend, if a very good friend of yours were suffering this way. I'm not going to go into steps 4 and 5. I'm just going to leave it to the first 3 steps for the purposes of our retreat today. And in each of the practices that we're going to offer you, if you find that you're able to touch and generate the energy of peace, please take some moments to savor and enjoy that. If, when you come back, especially in silence, and this is why silence is so important in our retreat, if you're able to turn off your notifications and give yourself a little bit of space, if you notice that the energy of suffering comes up, see if you can start to meet it with this kind of self-compassion. So we're going to do a variety of practices in the coming minutes. We'll do some sitting practices. We'll do a walking practice. And we'll try to work with the energy of our minds to work with our thoughts and our feelings. The key instruction is to please take good care of yourself while we do this, and please do what's right for you. We'll be doing a sitting practice. And of course, when you're sitting, it can be very useful to be in a kind of comfortable and upright position that allows you to be alert, but without being in pain, without being stiff, being reasonably relaxed. You might like to have your eyes closed while we do that, but it's also okay to have your eyes partly open, especially if you feel you're going to fall asleep. Hmm. When we do a walking practice, we'll give you some additional instructions at that moment. There's probably something that I've missed, but I'll rely on Siri to fill in any of the blanks. But that's our intention for our retreat today. So please take a moment to breathe for yourself, to be present, and to set your intention to see what it's like to come home to the present moment, to be with yourself, and see if you can touch the peace within you. Because as Thich Nhat Hanh says, if we are peaceful, if we are happy, we can blossom like a flower. And everyone, our friends, our family, our entire society will benefit from our peace.
So we aren't going to have any official breaks in these 2 hours. So if you ever need a restroom break, just feel free to go do your thing and then meet us back here. So this first practice is going to be one that can be really helpful in coming into what some people describe as the eye of the hurricane. You know, when things around us are chaotic and crazy, crazy emotions around us, it's a breath practice that can bring us into a more settled state where things are more quiet and peaceful so that we can respond appropriately. So I wanted to give a heads up that this practice is going to be a breathing practice. If for any reason the breath makes you feel uncomfortable, then by all means, let my guidance fade into the background and you can choose a different focus, like sounds or sensations. You're always in choice. So start by finding a posture that feels comfortable for you. You know, sitting up can bring a sense of wakefulness if that's what you need right now. Or if you want to lie down, that can give you a real sense of letting go. So, whatever you need right now. And then allowing the eyes to close gently or having a downward soft gaze. And again, allowing your attention to drop from your head into your body, feeling the weight of you grounded here. Sensing the body firmly connected to what you're resting on, the floor, the chair. And also feeling the upward lift of the body up through the back, neck, head, allowing the shoulders to melt down relaxed. The chin slightly tucked so there's length in the back of the neck. Allowing the muscles in the face to be soft, especially around the eyes, letting the jaw be loose, and the forehead spacious. And as you rest here, you might have already started to notice how the body moves as you breathe. The whole body slightly expands as you breathe in, softens down, relaxes as you breathe out. So tuning into the movements associated with the breath in the body. Noticing how there's a beginning, middle, and end of the in-breath, and a beginning, middle, and end of the out-breath. And you might notice that when the in-breath turns to become the out-breath, there's a slight pause. And when the out-breath turns to become the in-breath, there might also be a slight pause. Allowing your attention to ride the whole cycle of the breath. And if possible, seeing it if you can bring more curiosity to this breath, because when we get curious, dopamine is released, a feel-good chemical. feeling into the freshness of this breath, this moment. And you might notice how the mind has a tendency to want to manipulate the breath. But for this practice, I'll invite you to just witness the breath. So many of us are control freaks, and when we pay attention to something that we can influence, we want to control it. So, what is it like to just witness, to just feel, observe the breath? And from time to time, you might notice that the mind wanders off to thinking or something else. That's not a mistake, it's not a failure. It's just what minds naturally do. So when you notice the mind has wandered, pausing, recognizing, and then choosing, if you wish, to return your attention back to this rhythm of the breath in the body. As you breathe in, feeling into the freshness of the in breath, and on the out breath, releasing, releasing, relaxing more and more deeply, allowing the muscles to surrender to gravity as best you can. Allowing your attention to ride the waves of the breath, just like the waves in the sea coming and going. No need to try to control them. We're just feeling them. Is it possible to enjoy the movements of the breath? Because when we take delight in the breath, it's much easier to pay attention to. And again, if you find the mind wandering off, the moment you notice it's wandered is a moment of celebration because that means that you're awake back in the present moment and able to choose to come back to these rocking motions of the breath and the body. Each in breath, a new beginning. Each out breath, a letting go, a letting be. And on that out breath, is it possible to relax a little more deeply, as if the body were so relaxed it was asleep, but the mind wide awake? So for the next 5 minutes, I'll stay in silence so you can really tune in to your own breath, the movements of the breath in your body. And now gently releasing your attention to the breath and resting quietly in your own experience. Feeling back into your posture. And you might like to create a gentle intention, an intention to maintain a quality of inner presence, an inner knowing of the breath. And get really curious as to how the breath is influenced by your thoughts, your experiences as you go through your day. So I'll end this practice with the sound of a bell.
And again, the part of the invitation here is for you to flow from practice to practice, seeing if you could allow yourself to maintain a kind of inner silence and noticing which of these practices at which points activate the seeds of peace within you. So if you're noticing that after the sitting guided by Siri, there is a sense of peacefulness, taking some opportunity to note that and enjoy it and savor it. If for any reason you do have to interrupt your practice, for example, you do pick up your phone or something intrudes in your awareness or you have to deal with something, perhaps taking a moment to be mindful of the contrast. What happens when you take just a few minutes to water your seeds of peace? What happens when you go back? So now we're going to do a standing practice. We're actually going to do a walking practice. So I'm going to invite you, if it's possible for you, to kind of stand up in your space. And I've chosen a space so that you'll be able to see me standing up. Although as long as you can hear me, as long as you can hear me, you really don't need to be able to see your screen. But usually when we do these, I'm, uh, you can't see me. I thought it might be nice for once to be able to see me. So hopefully this will work. So I'm gonna get up and move back a little bit. Okay, so hopefully, Siri, you can give me some feedback if I need to adjust my camera. Great, thank you, because I can't see my own image. And of course, if for any reason you're not able to do this as a walking practice, please feel free to perhaps just move to the edge of your seat or to continue kind of following along with us just by sitting and breathing or sitting and hearing sounds or whatever feels right for you. But the truth of the matter is that we can continue to be in contact with peace while we're walking. We do not have to walk in a kind of mindless automatic way. And so the opportunity to practice mindful walking, peaceful walking is incredibly powerful. So all we do is bring your mind down to the soles of your feet. A moment ago, you were bringing your mind to the sense of your body breathing, so we're just shifting the object. Just bringing your mind down to the soles of your feet, even if it's just still standing or standing still. Just taking a moment to feel, taking a moment to feel the soles of your feet in that solid contact with the floor. And again, you don't need a large space. I'm going to walk back and forth in a space that's less than 2 meters long. Just going to just beginning to walk and simply keeping your mind with the soles of your feet as you lift and then place, lift and then place. If you like, if it works for you, you can synchronize your breath with your step. So as you take a step, breathe in, and as you take the next step, breathe out. Just keeping your mind with your step. Let's do that for a few minutes. Breathing in, I take a step. Breathing out, I take the next step. And seeing if you can notice and release any worries. Am I doing it right? Or any tendency to want to correct yourself or judge yourself. Maybe even just enjoying breathing and walking, breathing and walking. And of course, whenever you notice that your mind has wandered, as Siri already said, just take a moment to celebrate. This is a sign that your mindfulness is present. Take a moment to smile, to celebrate being human, and then come back to your step, feeling that contact with the floor. There are actually very many ways to do this simple practice, and I'm going to offer some different alternatives that you can try, or just choose what you like. So, breathing in, I take a step. Breathing out, I take the next step. Or if you like, you could simply say to yourself with each step, one step, you say, I have arrived, I am home, in the here, and in the now. So that would be 4 steps. Taking one step, you say, I have arrived. Taking the next step, you say, I am home. Taking the third step, in the here, and the fourth step, in the now. Just like that. I have arrived. I am home. In the here, and in the now. If you find when you do this that you have trouble keeping your balance, it probably means you're walking too slow or making too much effort. So just smile and go a little bit more quickly. If you like, another way to visualize this practice is to imagine that with each step, you're touching the earth, and your footstep is even offering a kind of kiss or hug to the earth, and the earth is embracing you back. So feeling deeply with each step your connection with the earth. If that connects for you, you decide which of these practices help you to be present and water the seeds of peace. And again, I'm going to stop talking for about 5 or 6 minutes and allow you to just continue practice walking peacefully. There is no way to peace. Peace is the way. and gently pausing, coming back to solidly standing, and simply taking a moment to check in with yourself. Just notice how the energy of your body and your mind are at this moment, allowing it to be however it is, but noticing what it's like. You take some moments to walk peacefully. And if you like, now taking a moment to thank your feet, if that feels right, because our feet are such good friends to us. They do so much for us. They can even help us to touch peace. And whenever you feel ready, as you feel ready, kind of making your way back to your seat, or to continue standing and continue practicing in that way if that's what feels right for you. That's what you need as we continue.
So during these practices, you might have noticed how thoughts or stories have come to mind. And so this is going to be a practice where we'll actually observe thoughts and the possibility of relating differently to thoughts. Because thoughts can have such a powerful control over our lives. They can make our lives miserable or wonderful. We often view thoughts as facts and we get caught up in them and we believe them to be true. So today we're just going to become more familiar with thoughts and recognize them as mental events that pass through the space of our mind, coming and going. So when we step back and observe our thoughts, it allows us to see them more clearly and decide whether or not to listen to their story. So again, finding a posture that feels right for you in this moment. Sitting, standing, lying down, or you can do this walking. Feeling into your posture, the shape of you. And we'll start by opening to the sense of sound, hearing. You don't need to reach out for sounds. Simply receiving sounds. Might be sounds outside in the room that you're in, or even within your body. Noticing how your awareness receives sounds without any effort. Noticing how sounds have a beginning, middle, and end. Some come and go quickly, some linger for a long time. And you might notice how the mind so quickly steps into to picture the sounds or label the sounds or judge the sounds. I like this, I don't like that. And if this happens, see if you can drop below thinking about the sounds to experiencing them directly. The tone, the pitch, the rhythm, the volume. Receiving sounds, these vibrations in the air. Maybe even marveling at the amazing sense of hearing that we have. And now allowing sounds to shift to the background of your awareness and bringing thoughts center stage. So we'll be focusing on the thought process, not seeing thoughts as distractions, but rather observing them as mental events flowing through the space of our mind, coming and going. And thoughts arise in different ways. Sometimes they arise as images, sometimes as like videos being played in our mind, or mental chit chat, inner talking. So just noticing, stepping back, seeing how the thoughts arise in the space of the mind, pass by and dissolve away. And you might find that when you actually start looking for thoughts, you have no thoughts. So if this is the case, just resting in that spaciousness, and eventually thoughts will arise. Thoughts can be about anything. They can be about future plans, worrying, past memories, what's happening right now. And thoughts, sometimes it seems like they have personalities. Some are very kind, some are mean, some are funny, and some are annoying and come back again and again. If you find that you get lost in a story, then one helpful tip is when you notice, mentally note, silently say to yourself, thinking, thinking, and see what happens. And if you do get lost in stories of thoughts, you may like to relax more and more deeply, perhaps bringing your attention back to the breath, the body, and when you find that there's more steadiness, then choosing, if you wish, to return back to observing the thoughts, these mental events coming and going through the space of the mind. And it can be helpful to imagine the mind is like an open blue sky, and thoughts are like clouds. Some thoughts appear that are very wispy, drifting away quickly. Others feel heavier and darker, perhaps. Sometimes it feels like a thought just takes up the whole space of the mind, the whole sky. So remembering our thoughts are not the mind, just as clouds are not the sky. So just sitting and watching the thoughts coming and going like clouds in a sky, if that's helpful. And noticing how thoughts, similar to sounds, also have a beginning, middle, and end. Some come and go quickly, some linger. They seem to arise out of nowhere. Sitting here watching, getting curious about these mental events coming and going. As thoughts come and go, remembering that we don't need to believe everything we think. We can't stop thoughts from arising and happening, but we can choose what to do next. With awareness, we have more of an ability to choose which thoughts to follow and which thoughts to let be. And now releasing your attention from these thoughts. Just allowing yourself to rest here. Noticing what the mind feels like and what the body feels like. Sensing the space around you.
Yeah, and again, allowing yourself to stay present and notice what the practice is like for you. Our thinking is such a big part of our life, and we've so frequently feel compelled or pushed, or as we view our thinking as facts. So if we want to touch peace, we need to be able to do the kind of practice in little bits that Siri was just guiding us in, and being able to kind of see the flow of thinking and recognize it for what it is. That's something very, very valuable, because that's one of the first reactions we have when we get stimulated, is to have this flow of thought. It's very reactive and frequently not at all useful. Probably the overwhelming majority of our thinking is not helpful to us, but it is part of being human. So it's very, very useful if we want to touch peace, to be able to observe our thoughts. And having spent some time with our thoughts, we'd also like to now practice with feelings. So I would like to offer you a practice of self-compassion in the face of dealing with however all these conflicts happening in the world are impacting you, are affecting you. Because again, we're all different. It may be the case that you have some direct connection to some of these conflicts. It might be the case that you don't have any direct connection, but you're reading about it in the news. Or maybe people at work or people you know are constantly debating about it or talking about it or arguing about it. It doesn't, we're all experiencing this all around the world. We're all connected to this in some way. And it's really useful to be able to use our skill of self-compassion. So I'm going to guide what we call, and what I think many of you are familiar with, as the self-compassion break for dealing with what's going on. In the self-compassion break, I don't want to spend too much time explaining it. We simply do this practice of recognizing, using our mindfulness to recognize our experience. Take some moments to recognize that our experience is part of being human. And then see, kind of check back in with ourselves kindly. So what we need, how to support ourselves as a friend when this is happening. Especially being able to do this to soothe and calm ourselves before we speak or act is something incredibly valuable. The invitation, of course, the primary invitation here is to take good care of yourself while we do this, so that if any portion of this practice doesn't feel right for you today, that you're quite tired or a bit out of sorts or feeling depleted, please give yourself permission not to follow along with the practice, because that's the foundation of self-compassion. And if you would like to give this a try, let me invite you to take a few breaths, to center yourself, perhaps even to begin by stretching or moving a bit. To allow your eyes to close gently and to bring into mind. Again, you may follow along with me, or you may do this in the way that feels right for you, to bring into mind some of the current events going on in the world that are upsetting you. To bring into mind your own reactions. And again, perhaps it's because you have some direct connection to it. Perhaps it's because in your work group or the people are arguing about it. Maybe in your neighborhood, people are putting out flags or signs in the windows. Um, or maybe you're just reading about it in your social media. But simply bringing into mind, however you're experiencing this in your life and what that feels like for you. Bringing it into mind enough so that you can feel that energy coming up, that emotional energy coming up as we're practicing together right now. And perhaps allowing some of that energy to come up where you might ordinarily clamp down or constrict or try to move away from it to the degree that feels all right for you, allowing the energy to come up. Whatever that is, despair, anger, outrage, helplessness, fear. And then taking a breath and with a firm, kind hand, guiding your awareness back to your body in the present moment and noticing how you're feeling. And in a kind, firm voice, saying to yourself, this is suffering. I am suffering right now. Or whatever other words help you to recognize that this is a moment of suffering. Maybe just by going, ugh, oh, this sucks, or whatever that is for you. This is bringing mindful awareness to the present moment and really recognizing the waves of suffering that we are all immersed in and affected by. Continuing to breathe and stay with your feelings, taking a moment to place a hand over your heart or to offer yourself compassionate touch in any way that feels right for you. Give yourself a hug or clasp your hands in your lap, just as a way of connecting and recognizing that we're all suffering. We're all being affected by this. Feeling these feelings is part of being human when the world has so much conflict. Whatever it is you're feeling, fear or anger, powerlessness, it's not a defect. It's part of being human, and many, many other people are also feeling this way. So simply breathing in and recognizing that feeling this way is part of being human. Even if it's the first time in your life you've lived through a period when there's so much conflict, this is part of being human. You're not alone in this experience. And then taking a moment to ask yourself, when I'm in pain, when I'm suffering, because of all the suffering that's happening in the world, because of all the conflict and anger, what do I need right now? What do I need to calm and soothe myself? What do I need to water the seeds of peace so I can act from a place of equilibrium? What do I need right now? There's no action you need to take right at this moment. There's nothing you need to say right at this moment. What do you need when you feel the world suffering? If something comes to mind, seeing if you could offer yourself a little bit of that. If you're having trouble with this, imagine that you had a very good friend, someone you really care about, who was feeling this way after reading their social feed, feeling this way after coming home from work or reading the news. What would you say to your friend to help them, to soothe them, to help them find some equilibrium? What kind words would you say? And how would you say it to them? And could you try offering some of those kind words to yourself? Imagine whispering that same soothing thought into your own ear. Or perhaps just coming back to a kind wish for yourself. May I learn how to be kind to myself when I suffer. Or may I learn how to water the seeds of peace within myself when it feels like the world is on fire. Or any other kind wish that gives you just a little bit of what you need at the moment. And continuing to stay present with your eyes closed or however you have them, simply releasing the practice and coming back to your breath for some moments. Simply coming back to the rhythm of your body breathing. Allowing the rhythm of your breath to hold you and soothe you. Perhaps again, if you like, if it requires no effort, allowing the smallest possible smile to blossom on your lips and behind your eyes. Trusting that even at difficult moments, peace is part of you. It's not somewhere else. It's not someone else. And gently opening your eyes. And of course, as a way of taking care of ourselves that's very useful, perhaps taking a moment to stretch, especially if a lot of emotional intensity came up for you during the practice. Feel free to stand, to move, to stretch, because we are physical beings. And even though we don't, on the online retreat, we don't always do this. If we were together in a physical retreat, we would definitely take some time to stretch and move in between practices. And also, if you like, noticing again, noticing what's connecting for you, what might be useful. Looks like you might need a sip of water, Siri. I'll keep talking. Noticing what's connecting for you so that you might be able to continue using it in the coming days.
So we'll shift into the last practice of this mini retreat. And to start, I'll offer you a little practice, and it's a nice one that you can bring into your day when you're feeling stressed. Um, just starting with a few what's called double inhale, elongated exhale. So breathing in through the nose, pausing, breathing in a little more air, and you can do that a few more times. The elongated exhale activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which helps to calm us a little more deeply. And then allowing your breath to come back to its natural rhythm. And as you sit here, bringing to mind that you yourself and all beings long for a deep, deep happiness and to be free from struggle. And because of this, throughout this practice, seeing if it's possible to hold the body and the mind with an attitude of kindness and compassion. So we'll start by offering some kindness to ourselves. And we can do this by way of simply breathing in goodness for ourselves, each in breath. Or you might like to offer yourself an inner smile with each breath. Or let words ride in on each in breath. For example, may I be happy and free from struggle. Whatever works for you, you're in choice. Offering goodness to yourself as you sit here. You can imagine the goodness coming into you in the form of those words or an energy, a felt sense, or an image like light, making it your own. And then when you're ready, allowing yourself to bring someone to mind. It can be someone you care for deeply or somebody you don't know well. And actually, it can be a person, an animal, a pet, a plant, any living being. And whomever comes to mind, either visualizing them or getting a sense of them, offering them some goodness in a way that feels right to you. So you might like to offer them the ease of breathing out. You might like to offer them an inner smile or sending kindness from your heart to theirs by way of the image, for example, the light or words. You might silently say to them, may you be happy and free from suffering. Again, making it your own. You're in choice. Sending goodness from your heart to theirs. So lingering with this being for a while, offering good wishes for as long as you like. And then when you're ready, waiting for another living being to appear in your mind. You know, letting the process be slow and easy, and then offering this next being some goodness in a way that works for you. And then finally, letting go of this practice. And you might like to have an intention also for bringing this into your daily life. So when you're walking down the street or in the car and you see other people, you can always send kindness their way in whatever way works for you. And even if you aren't receiving it from the others, you can still send it because it matters, especially in our world today. And so as we come out of this practice, when you're ready, allowing your gaze to lift up and slowly look at the names, the the people on the screen. And even though you might not know these people, you might know some of these people, just seeing what it's like to offer a smile or kindness in whatever way that works for you. And sending the goodness outwards.
And really, I thanks Siri for emphasizing how this is a practice that we can bring into daily life. We don't have to be sitting on a meditation cushion or in a retreat. We can be walking down the street. And when a car drives by, we can look at the car and think, may all those in that car arrive safely at their destination. When we pass someone on the sidewalk, may we can direct good wishes to them as opposed to the other things we'd be thinking about. Are we? And so we'd like to give you, we want to take a few minutes now for you to reflect on it. If before I do that, I just want to say we're going to ask you to do a written reflection now. So if you don't have something to write with, please take a moment to go get something to write with, or feel free to use your computer or your device. to make a note. So I'll just, because all of the practices that we've offered today, being with the breath, letting the breath guide us, doing a kind of slow walking mindfulness and being with the steps, learning how to see our thoughts without getting too tangled up in them, taking care of our anguish, taking care of our feelings when they come up, and even offering compassion. These do not require us to be in a retreat. These are things that we can practice in the course of daily life. So I'd like to invite everyone to take a moment to reflect on what felt alive for you today, what connected for you today, and what is one way that you could bring this into your daily life in the coming week. One or two little steps that you might be able to take in the coming week to touch peace as you're going through your day. And as you write, really seeing if you can kind of feel the intention, savor the intention. Or if you're already done writing, just taking some moments to just bask in whatever feelings you might be full of at the moment. And allowing another minute in silence for writing. And as we close, I'd like to offer a poem. I'd like you to, and again, you might perhaps like to continue looking at the faces on the screen and send out good wishes to the people in the room, and to recognize that they're sending good wishes to you. You might like to close your eyes and let these words enter into your consciousness, perhaps imagining that you can really feel the meaning of these words and it's soaking into your mind. Peace is this moment without judgment, by Dorothy Hunt. Do you think that peace requires an end to war or tigers eating only vegetables? Does peace require an absence from your boss, your spouse, yourself? Do you think peace will come some other place than here? Some other time than now? In some other heart? than yours. Peace is this moment without judgment. That's all. This moment in the heart space where everything that is welcome. Peace is this moment without thinking that it should be some other way, that you should feel some other thing, that your life should unfold according to your plans. Peace is this moment without judgment, this moment in the heart space where everything that is welcome. Peace is this moment without judgment by Dorothy Hunt. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here, for being part of the experience. In a moment, I'll stop the recording and I'll change the settings.